Hi, my name's Aaron Curry, and today I'm going to be showing you the 6 rules that guarantee that every house I buy for you rents like hotcakes. These are 6 rules that also guarantee that the houses in your portfolio make like rabbits. What I mean by that is they multiply, they look after themselves and multiply your portfolio so it triples in size over a 10-year period without a single extra penny from your pocket. So if you start with 3, within 10 years you can have 9 without a single extra penny from your pocket. You see, it takes a lot more than discount on purchase to build a world-class buy-to-let portfolio. If that's what you've been looking for, you're looking for the wrong thing. It's what I did at the start of my journey. It's the wrong thing. It takes a lot more than discount on purchase to buy 3 houses today, and without an extra penny of investment, triple that portfolio to 9 houses over the next decade. And that'll be a portfolio that gives you at least £70,000 per annum, year after year after year, for the rest of your life, inflation proofed. You see, that's exactly what this video series is showing you. How I can build you a £70,000 per annum, being conservative, a £70,000 per annum annual profit buy-to-let portfolio in only 10 years with only 9 houses. And how you can achieve that buying just 3 houses, either from your savings or from equity in your family home or equity in other buy-to-lets, or just a combination of those put together. That means you can retire within a decade, guaranteed. Guaranteed. £70,000 per annum, tax-free, virtually for the rest of your life, inflation proof. Because someone else is building you a property portfolio. So it doesn't matter how busy you are, it doesn't matter what you've got going on with life, with work, got going on with the kids, nothing's going to get in the way. You make the decision, we get this done. So if you can invest in 3 houses this year, your portfolio can grow to 9 properties over the next 10 years without an extra penny from your pocket. If you buy the right houses in the right area at the right price and manage them in the right way. You've got to do those things too. It's that powerful cocktail that makes your houses mate like rabbits, and your portfolio triple in size over 10 years without an extra penny from your pocket. Now, that's a lot to cover. It's more than we can comfortably cover in one video. So that's why there are 4 videos in this free 4-part video series. Today's video is the 3rd in a 4-part series. In the first video, I showed you how I can build you a £70,000 per annum buy-to-let portfolio in only 10 years. And I explained what's happening in the property market and why 2021 is the best buying opportunity since 2009. If you haven't watched that video, I really strongly suggest you pause this video right now and go watch that first. If you look somewhere around this video, you'll be able to watch it by clicking the link somewhere around this video. In the second video in the series, I showed you the most profitable towns and cities for buy-to-let investors in 2021. The towns and cities that will give you great cash flow and allow your portfolio to triple in size over the next 10 years, great equity growth, without an extra penny from your own pocket. I also explain how the property market works. So if you haven't watched that video, then I suggest you pause this video and watch that first. And you can watch it now by clicking the link somewhere around this video, maybe off to the right. In today's video, the 3rd in the series, I'm going to show you the 6 rules that guarantee that every house I buy for you rents like hotcakes to what I call lifer tenants. I'll cover that shortly, but to lifer tenants, and has great equity growth, so your portfolio puts 4 times more money in your pocket than a normal property would give you, or normal portfolio would give you. Now, before we dive into the content, just to explain why the video quality is not what I want it to be. We're in lockdown 3 as I record this, so I can't work with my videographer. It's just me with a webcam and the computer. So if the information to you is more important than the video quality, and you'd like to find out how I can build you a £70,000 per annum, year after year after year, buy-to-let portfolio in 10 years, and why you only need to invest in 3 properties to achieve that, then you're going to love this video series. By the way, if you want to have £140,000 per annum and you can start with 6, let's go ahead and do that. If you want to start with 10 straight away, or 15, and you want to build a £250,000 per annum or £300,000 per annum, no problem, we can do that for you too. but I'm just going to stick to that model of 3 just to explain things. So let's dive into the 6 rules that guarantee every house that I buy for you rents like hotcakes. Remember, these are the 6 rules that also guarantee that the houses in your portfolio will multiply like rabbits and your portfolio triples in size over a 10-year period without an extra penny from your pocket. Now, finally, just before we share the rules, so you've got the context. I have over 200 properties in my portfolio. We've bought for our investors of our done for you service over the last 11 years, over 1,300 great performing properties, outstanding performing properties. We buy for our investors now 40 plus properties a month. So we know what's going on at the coalface. We know what works today. This isn't 5-year-old, 10-year-old teaching. I've been investing for 20 years. I could tell you what worked 20 years ago. This works today. And this works in a rising market, a falling market, at the peak, the trough. It works in all markets because I've used it in all markets. So just so you've got that context, this stuff works. So what are these rules? I call them my 6 C's. The first of these C's is C for capacity. C for capacity. If you're buying a buy-to-let property, you need to buy 3 or 4 bedroom houses. I do not want you buying flats and apartments. Why? If you buy a flat, somebody moves in that 1-bedroom flat, they fall in love with somebody else in another 1-bedroom flat, and guess what? They move out because they want to live together. You buy a 2-bedroom house and they've got 1 child, and then they get pregnant, they're having another child. Guess what? They move out. And you end up with the property empty again. It's what I call transiency. Now, an average tenant change on a buy-to-let property costs you about £1,500. Sometimes it's very little, sometimes it's more than that, but typically, by the time you've paid for any void period, by the time you've paid the letting agent to find you a new tenant, any titivating that's needed in the property, on average, it's £1,500. If you've got 1 property and the tenant changes every year, 1-bedroom flat, let's say, the tenant changes once a year, over a decade, that's a £15,000 problem. If you've got 10 of those babies, you've now got £150,000 a decade problem. That is a lot of money, a lot of money. So you don't want that churn. You don't want that turnover. You want to be buying properties, these 3 and 4 bedroom properties that people move into, and they say to you, I love it here. My mum lives down the street. My uncle and auntie live up there. My kids are in the local school. I want to stay here for life. Lifer tenants. What does a lifer tenant do when the door handle breaks? They think they're going to live here for life. They treat it like their own. They just fix it. When they want to paint, they just ring you up and say, do you mind if we paint the walls? No, here's some paint. They go on and paint the walls. Yeah. In 2019, we had in our buy-to-let properties, mine and my business partners, we got 72 between us, part of the 200 I've got. Okay. Mark's not involved in this business, but he's involved in those 72 buy-to-lets. We have 4 tenants pay to put in new kitchens into those buy-to-lets. Now, that's not because we run shoddy properties, by the way. We don't. It's not because the kitchens were shoddy, but they saw themselves staying for decades, living in those buy-to-lets for decades. Brilliant for us. They were like, we'll put in new kitchens, then we get to benefit from the new kitchens as we stay here for the rest of our lives or for decades to come. They're amazing tenants to have. When someone pays to put in a new kitchen, do they pay the rent on time every time or never pay the rent again? Of course they pay the rent on time. They're those type of people. Do they look after the rest of the house? Of course they do. Do you spend less on maintenance, less on managing the property, have less hassle, have no churn? Of course you do. Awesome for you as an investor, awesome for them. When you attract lifer tenants, you have to know how to attract lifers. Not only buying the right house, but in how you advertise, in who you let in your properties, and who you let tenant your properties. You need to have that skill set to pick the right tenants so they become lifers. Now, by the way, do we sometimes have to kiss a couple of frogs to get our prints? Absolutely. You know, absolutely. When we buy you an investment property, the first tenant might only stay for 2 years instead of 15. But within a couple of frogs, we'll have the prince, and the prince will stay forever. Okay? And the prince will look after your house, will minimize your maintenance costs, increase your cash flow massively, and often improve your house along the way as you go. So you need lifer tenants. This starts by buying the right houses. It starts by 3 or 4 bedroom properties. Our average tenancy at the Insight Group, by the way, is over 5 years because we buy the right houses. What's golden rule number 2? It's C for city. Now, what do I mean by city? Well, let me give you an example. I live in Wilmslow, Cheshire now, so just near Manchester Airport, Wilmslow, Cheshire. But our head office and the business with over 50 people working in it is based in Scarborough, North Yorkshire. Okay, so I used to live in Scarborough. And about 30 miles away, if I came out my front door, drove 30 miles, I'd arrive in York. Now, you can go to York, beautiful cathedral town, beautiful old city. And if you've got £50,000 to invest, you can maybe go buy 1 3-bedroom house in York for £150,000, and it's going to rent out, for, let's say, for £700 a month. You can take the same investment in Scarborough, parts of Scarborough, which were 5-6 miles from my front door, and you'd be able to buy 2 houses, 2 3-bedroom houses for £75,000 each. So you've invested the same amount of money, you've bought £150,000 worth of property, but in Scarborough, you've got 2 houses for £75,000 each. In York, you've got 1 house. The Scarborough houses rent for £560 per month each. In fact, it's gone up since then, but £560 per month each. So add that together for 2 houses, you're on £1,120 a month, rather than the £700 a month that you're getting in York. Now, if you watch my last video, video number 2, you'll know that properties on average, they go up the same over time. If York prices go up 7% this year, next year, Scarborough's always about a year behind. Scarborough will go up 6 to 8%. If York goes down 2% this year, next year Scarborough will go down 1 to 3%. But over time, they go up the same. So if over time they go up the same, I'm going to get the same capital growth wherever I invest. I know what I'd rather have in the meantime. I'd rather buy in Scarborough and have the extra £420 a month of rental profit, which is an extra £5,000 a year, while I'm waiting for the market to rise. Now, by the way, I'm not telling you to specifically buy your houses in Scarborough. Of the 400 or 500 properties we'll buy for our clients this year, probably only 5 or 10 will be in Scarborough. There are even better places often to buy. The point I'm making is don't buy just because it's local. The properties need to meet these 6 C's. On top of that, they need to be in the price bracket of 70 to 140K. Write that down. That's the sweet spot for amazing capital growth and amazing cash flow. You've got to buy for the best return on investment. You've got a lump of money to invest. You want the best return on it, don't you? Use an expert team to look after it for you and get the best return. Get a true hands-free investment so you can focus on your job, your career, you can focus on your family, whatever's important to you, or relaxing, and know this is getting done in the background. Next, let's look at the 3rd and 4th rules, the 3rd and 4th C's. Capital, C for capital, and C for cash flow. C for capital and C for cash flow. You have to have both at the table. We want capital growth and we want great cash flow. Okay? Over time, both rent and house price rises. Both. They don't need to rise at the same time. They don't. One will rise, then the other will rise. It's a bit like a seesaw motion, but ratcheting up. Okay? So why is it that a seesaw motion and it ratchets up? Because what happens, if you imagine the early 2000s, house prices were booming, 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 booming. We hit about 2007, 2008. People went, and by the way, while they were booming, rents were still going up, but far more gradually. Then people in 2007, 8 said, this is crazy. It's so expensive to buy. I'm going to rent instead. So less people start buying. We even get a little adjustment and a drop. But rents start booming, 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 booming. So about 2012, 13, then people go, this is crazy. It's too expensive to rent. I'm going to buy instead. So rents slow down again, and the housing market starts booming, booming, booming. And you've got this ratcheting system going on. As an investor, I don't care. If the prices are going up, I can release equity, buy more properties, or I can release equity, spend it, have holidays, have a great time, live off it. When rents are going up, I get more cash flow coming in, more profit. I can spend it, go on holiday, or reinvest it, buy more properties. I win either way. Now, of course, over time, the equity growth adds more than the cash flow does. But you have to have both at the table. When you buy for just one of them, you risk far too much, far too much. So let's look at capital growth first of all. How do you make sure that you get great capital growth? 5 simple steps. In the last video, I covered with you that the national average over the last 90 years is 7.9% per annum growth. If you can catch that, You're in great shape. That's phenomenal. So how do we catch the national average? Write these down. Number one, you buy in a town or a city. Minimum population, 80,000. Number two, you buy within 5 miles of that town or city centre. If it's Birmingham or Manchester, within 7 miles, but otherwise within 5 miles of the town or city centre. I don't know if you measure, I don't mind if you measure the centre by the town hall or whether you measure it by the railway station, but within 5 miles of the city centre. Number three, you buy within 2 miles of a good or outstanding school. It can be secondary or primary, but within 2 miles of a good or outstanding school. How do you measure that? You get the Ofsted report. And as well as being within 2 miles, you want to make sure you're in the catchment area for that school. Okay, so that's our third check. Number four, good public transport network. So you don't want to be on the far side of the estate, so it's a mile walk to get to the bus stop. Good public transport network. Number five, good road network. So buying a town or a city within 5 miles of the city centre, within 2 miles of a good or outstanding primary or secondary school, good public transport network, good road network. If you tick those boxes, you will get the national average. If you go buy in a village, if you were normie and you buy in a village and the local factory shuts down and 200 people lose their jobs in the village, microeconomics kicks in, the prices might not shift for the next 10 years in that town, in that village. Nothing you did, but you bought in the wrong place. You've got to buy for capital growth to get the national average. You buy in a town or a city and a big factory shuts, still doesn't affect the house prices in the way that you might think. So make sure that it meets all of these rules. By the way, if a property fails just one of any of these rules, just one of them, it's out. It's rejected, it's lost, it's gone. I don't care if it looks like the perfect 3-bed on the, it looks like it's on the perfect street and you've got tenants coming out of your ears for it. If it doesn't meet those rules I've just covered, reject. I'm not buying it. It's got to meet every single C and all the subsets that come with it. So let's look next at cash flow. Let's look at cash flow. Now, if you want to do cash flow on a real simple basis, go look for £100,000 property. Go look for 7.2% yield. What do I mean by that? If you can buy it for 100,000, 7.2% is 7,200 a year. Divide that by 12, 600 a month. So if you're buying something for 100,000, you want it to rent for 600 a month or more. If it rents for less, reject. If you're buying it for 200,000, you want it to rent for double that. So 1,200 a month or more. If it rents for less, reject. Real simple, real simple. However, I prefer to do this check in more detail. And when we're buying properties for you, we absolutely do this check in more detail. And here's what we'll do. Okay, in fact, I'll throw a slide up just to show you the figures as I take you through the figures. So let's say the rent on a property is $650 a month. Okay, next you look at the mortgage. Okay, let's say the mortgage is $300 a month. Okay, then you look at maintenance. These properties, on average, we manage over 1,000 of them. On average, they cost £1,000 a year. It's about £80 a month. Let's put £80 a month in for that. Insurance, you'll probably get it for £15 a month, but let's say it's £20 a month and plan for that. We need to put in the letting agency cost to manage this property at $650 a month. So let's say the letting agency cost, for easy numbers for me, let's say the letting agency cost is £80 a month. So you can see as I put these figures in, we've got 650 coming in, we've got 480 going out, and that leaves us with a profit of £170 a month in this example. Now, by the way, before I move on to the next step of how we do this cash flow check to say, is it a pass or a fail? Let me be really clear with you, really clear. We want to be cautious with these numbers. What most people do when they invest in property, they get excited and they forget about numbers, or they make it look better than it is. So that mortgage isn't mortgage at today's stupid cheap rates. You can get a mortgage in your own name at 2% on a buy-to-let. It's just crazy. So what we do is we look at what the banks are offering on 5-year fixed. Let's say they're offering 3.5%. We add another half or a percent on top. We might go based on 4%. What will this be? Now we know then that for at least the next 5 years, because the banks aren't stupid when they offer a 5-year fix, for at least the next 5 years, it'll be below that number. And actually, we're probably covered for 6 or 7 or 8 years because we've added half or a percent on top. So if we plan for the mortgage on that basis, in this example, we're planning based on 300 a month. But the reality is, instead of being 4% or 4.5%, the mortgage might be 2%. That might halve that to 150. This property might actually be making 320 a month instead of only 170 a month. But I just wanted to get it in your head, plan worst case. If you've just bought the house and refurbished it, it's not going to cost you £80 a month. It might only cost you £30 a month. That's another £50 on the bottom line. So if I come to you and tell you, or my team tell you that a property is making 170 a month, the reality is it might be making another 150 on top of that or more. It might be making well over 300 a month, the reality. But I don't want you to plan on that. I want you to plan worst case, and then it's just upside. Why don't we plan on that basis in our lives? Plan worst case and it's just upside, or plan at least cautiously. You don't want to see it totally worse than it is, but plan cautiously. And if the numbers work on that, if £70,000 a year works for you, which I'm assuming it will do, that's cool. And it's just upside all the way. So I hope that makes sense. Now, how do we finish off this check? Well, we've got this property. If I throw the slide back up, you've got this property. It's making £170 a month, being cautious. What we do is we assume that the property is empty for 4 weeks of every year. So it's empty for December. In reality, you work with the Insight Group, we buy to these rules, your property will only be empty for 1 week a year on average. 1 week a year, because our average tenancy is 5 years. So if it's only empty 1 week a year, we're planning for it being empty a month a year, we're planning 4 times as worse again. But let's assume it's empty for December. So all year long, this property is rented January through November, and we're getting £170 a month profit in the bank account, having paid for everything. So £170 profit times 11, that's £1,870 of profit sat in our bank account at the end of November, November the 30th. December comes along and the tenant moves out, let's say. So when the tenant moves out, the check that we do, because we never want to put another penny of our own money into this deal. So the check we do, we say, is the money we've got in the bank now enough to pay for December's rent? December's rent is £650. In our example, we've got £1,870 in the bank. The answer is tick, yes. There's plenty there to pay for December's rent. It's past the cash flow check. Even if it's empty for a month a year, we can still afford this property without ever putting another penny into it. I want your properties to be cash machines. Once you've made your original investment, you pull the handle each month, money falls out. Each year, money's falling out. Then it goes up in value. We release equity. More money falls out. You either buy more properties with it or you bank it. Yeah? And spend it on whatever you want to spend it on. They're beautiful cash machines. You pay for it once and then you get paid forever. Forever and ever and ever. Okay? Does this make sense? Now, to finish that example off, if the profit on that slide had only been £50 a month, times 11 is 550, that's then less than the 650 we have to spend in December. Reject. You walk away. Literally, you walk away. And people say to me, for the sake of £100 a year, you might walk away from a deal. Yes, because on the next town or street or in the next city, there'll be an awesome property that meets all the other rules and this one as well. Why would you settle for second or third best? You want the best in your portfolio. If you're investing yourself, are you really getting the best every single time? Instead of having this done for you and knowing that you're getting the best properties. What's the fifth C? We've covered the first 4. What's the fifth C? The fifth C is C for check. Now, most professional investors don't even follow this golden rule and they make expensive mistakes. Check means before you buy the house, you check to make sure it will rent. You check to measure the demand. So you might place an advert. You've just agreed to buy the house, or we've just agreed to buy the house for you. We place an advert on Open Rent or something like that. I mean, we have the tools with Rightmove and Zoopla, etc., so we can advertise on those, but we run a dummy advert. And we put the advert up and we say, we've got this house. We can't quote the exact house because people that haven't finished selling it to us yet are going to get a bit upset if we start advertising to rent before we've completed on it. But we got this 3-bedroom house on Nelson Street, $650 a month, double glazed, gas central heating. This is the rent. And we're looking for how many calls we get. In that first week, you need a minimum of 10 phone calls. In the old days, I used to buy myself property when I didn't know what I was doing. My first 10 houses were a disaster. I haven't covered that in this video series, but total disaster. You might have heard me talk about it before because I didn't know what I was doing. I'd not committed to mastery and learned from the best. And when I was buying those first houses, I'd place an advert, 5 people would ring me up interested in a house, 3 people would view it, and 1 person would want it. And I'd feel chuffed. I'd be like, oh, I found a tenant. Now, in reality, they were the only person out of 7 billion on the planet that was interested in renting my miserable house. The only one. Whereas, let me give you another example. You run the advert, 20 people reply. Now 10 people view it, now 5 people want it. You know, and then you can ask for, you can say, well, okay, well, I want bank statements, references, guarantors, the works. That might put one of them off. You've still got 4 interested in renting the property. Now you're choosing the tenant, they're not choosing you. Run that down the line a year or two, and this tenant stops paying you or starts damaging the property or having parties or they're causing some kind of problem. If they were the only person that wanted your miserable house, you're worried to get rid of them in case you can't get another one. And that becomes a problem. However, if you know it's easy, you know there'll be a flood of people that want the property, you're not so concerned, and you'll manage them politely, you'll manage them professionally, and you'll work with them to pay the rent. But if they just can't, or there's something that is not going to sort itself out, you'll happily get rid of them because you know you'll easily tenant it again. That's what happens when you buy world-class properties to the right rules. It takes all the hassle and stress away. Am I telling you that if you own 10 houses, nothing will ever go wrong? I'm not telling you that. Come on. You're going to own buy-to-lets. Boilers will break. Things will need maintenance work. Tenants will sometimes trash your properties. They might even grow some marijuana and not even share it with you. Yeah? Stuff will go wrong. Occasionally, they won't pay the rent. Okay? But if you've bought to the right rules, it's really easy to put right. It's never a pressure on you financially because you've got the great cash flow. They're all going up in value. You're able to buy more. They're multiplying, breeding like rabbits. Your houses are breeding like rabbits if you buy the right houses to the right rules. Okay. The final C is C for contingency. C for contingency. What do I mean by that? I want you to never, ever put another penny into these deals once you've bought them. And in fact, having bought 1,300 houses for people, they've never had to do that. What you do is you leave a chunk of your money in a rainy day pot. So if you come to me and say, Aaron, we've got 120,000 to invest, we're in. Okay, that would be a great move, by the way. But you come do that, we're not going to spend all 120,000. About 4.5% of it will get you to leave in your rainy day buffer account, your contingency pot. So in that example, that's about £5,500, isn't it? So we'll invest the other 114,500, and 5,500 of it will stay sat there protecting the investment. Then if a boiler breaks, you're not having to raid the bank account. You're not having to have a fallout at home because it's Christmas and you're supposed to be treating the kids and now you're spending it on the boiler, or you're cancelling the family summer holiday because you're spending it on a boiler. Okay? Or if something else happens, you've got contingency. Now, in reality, you've got that contingency pot, and then you've got these 3 houses. They're all renting. They're all making a couple of £100 a month, cautiously. That's another 600 a month going in. The pot's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah? But you always just leave that protection there, so you've got it to protect you. Does that make sense? Big mistake novice investors make. They put every penny they've got into the deal, and then something breaks, fall out at home, big argument, and they go, do you know what, it's not worth the hassle, and they stop. It's just because they didn't set up properly. So if you're investing $1 million with us, 45,000 will stay in the contingency pot. I mean, you'll decide, but that's what we recommend. If you're investing $500,000, 22,500. If you're, depends where your start point is, but 4.5% is that magic number that you put into the contingency pot. Okay. So these are my golden rules to buy world-class properties. These are houses that will put 4 times more money in your pocket because they profit from cash flow, equity growth, and the refinancing element. It's the cash flow, equity growth, and refinancing that allows the houses in your portfolio to make like rabbits and triple in size over 10 years without an extra penny from your own pocket. If any one of these elements are missing, then you can't grow your portfolio with equity growth. And your portfolio only puts money in your pocket with cash flow. That means you need 4 times as many houses to create the same income. That's crazy, but it happens so often when people buy the wrong houses. Now, if you like the idea of my team building you a buy-to-let portfolio, but you don't have the savings to get started, Let me tell you how we built, or we're building, a £1.8 million portfolio for a couple that only had a £27,000 combined income and no savings to speak of when we met them. Let me introduce you to John and Sue. John and Sue are an ordinary couple in their mid-50s, everyday couple. When I met them, they've got a combined annual income of £27,000 a year. That's the total income coming into the house, and that's what they've lived off, that kind of income, for the last 20 years. John works full-time, Sue works part-time, and they've got very small wages coming in. And it turns out they've got some equity in their residential property, money they didn't know they had. But they've no savings. There's 10 years to go till retirement. They're looking down the barrel of state pension, and they've got no buy-to-let experience whatsoever. Okay? And the only property experience they've got at that point is the fact they bought a house and lived in it for the last 20 years and brought up their daughter in there. So that's the position that they're in when we meet them. They come to one of my events, and we get talking at the event, and they say, do you know what? Can we review where we're going? Can we review what's going on? And they sit with one of my property experts, and they sit and review their situation. And they say, hey, they have a look at the whole situation. They say, do you know what? There is actually a way you can do this. You've got equity in your residential property. They look at their situation and they say, you can change things here. You can change things. They knew they needed to do something, but they didn't have a clue how to do it. So the reason we looked at the equity is because what we can do is we can take that equity. People are often reluctant to take equity out of their own residential property. They're like, I don't want to draw money out of here. Now, if you're drawing money from your own residential property and you're going spending it on holidays or cars or stuff like that that goes down in value, I agree. That is crazy. You're just increasing your debt for no real gain. But if you're taking equity and moving it, so taking it from this property, but just moving it and using it as deposits on these properties, all you've done is moved it. You've still got the equity. It's just here as well as here. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So you've just moved the equity. Now, when you do that, you should always have a written plan for how you pay back off the residential mortgage and you get debt-free at home. There's no better feeling than getting debt-free at home. That's where you want to be. But using it to speed things up, using it to make this happen for you, no problem, as long as you're just moving it, which is what you would be doing. So if you've got equity in your residential property or you've got equity in your buy-to-lets, you just move it into other buy-to-lets. But then you've got more property, more asset that you're in control with. So what did we do with John and Sue? We sat down with them. Within 6 months of meeting us, we put them in touch with our mortgage specialist. They review their situation and they're able to release £110,000 from their own personal property. They release £110,000. We take that and we buy to our golden rules. We were able to source them 4 properties. Remember, it's normally 40,000 a property, so normally that'd be 3. We were able to source them 4. Now, remember, John and Sue know nothing about property investing, so we do everything for them. We find the houses that meet the golden rules. We negotiate on those houses. We sort the solicitor. We sort the refurb. We get it rented. We literally do everything to turn those houses into a cash machine for them. So without any of their savings, not a penny, they've taken equity from their family home and put it into 4 additional buy-to-let houses. Within 6 months of meeting us, they've got 4 investment properties. Now, those buy-to-let houses have been bought to cover the increased mortgages on John and Sue's house. So don't worry about that. We buy the right houses, they'll cash flow, they'll cover themselves, but they'll also cover where you've borrowed the extra money from. So their new portfolio is not costing them a penny extra from their savings and a penny extra in mortgage payments. That includes all the payments of the buy-to-let as well, the letting payment fees, the insurance, contingency for maintenance, absolutely everything. This portfolio is pumping out cash without them, and they can carry on their normal life. Bottom line, this is where they were. Remember, they had £27,000 income on average for the last 20 years. Their 4 buy-to-lets, having paid for all the mortgages, including the increase on the residential one, were making them an extra £13,000 a year. Literally, by just moving the equity, having it done for them professionally, bought the right houses, they're now on an extra £13,000 a year from those 4 houses. That's like a 50% salary increase overnight, and the majority of that tax-free. Now that allows John and Sue to have a dream holiday now if they want to have a dream holiday now. It allows John and Sue to do improvements to their house. It allows them to do whatever they want to do with that extra £13,000 whilst they wait for their retirement day. And they've still got the portfolio that will make like rabbits and grow. Now, in their situation, they actually said, do you know what? We don't want to spend any more money. We'd rather just get to retirement sooner. So they said, I tell you what, if we keep that money in the pot and keep using it to grow the portfolio, what will life look like? Well, life for them, 12 years from now, you're not going to believe this. They're going to be on £30,000 a year. They've started with not a penny of their own savings. They're going to be 12 years from now. They're going to have about 12 properties that will make rental profit of £30,000 a year, which is more than the combined working salaries now anyway. And on top of that, with equity releases they'll be able to take from the 12 properties that they can then use to live on, to spend, etc., they're going to retire on £95,000 a year. This is an everyday couple based on very conservative modeling, 5% growth per annum, just moving the equity they already had somewhere else, and they're on £95,000 a year. I love what property achieves. I love what property does for people. No one can say that is not unbelievably life-changing. This is a couple that have been on £27,000 a year all their lives. They're in mid-50s, and now they're looking at a situation where they're going to be on 95,000. What if we miss target and they only end up on 75,000 a year? Or what if, because we've modeled so conservative, it ends up being 120, 150,000 a year? How will that change their lives? How would that change your life? How would that change your life being on 95,000 a year? This is an everyday couple, everyday situation. You see, I meet loads of people just like John and Sue that don't think they can release money from their family home, or they've never looked at it, or they've got some buy-to-lets and they don't know whether they can release equity or not, or they don't know how much cash they've got. They've been interested in property for a year or two or 5, and they've never worked out what money they've got available and what can be achieved. I've got an answer for you. Let my team see if they can help you. We work with mortgage specialists. They're not my business, but mortgage specialists that do 60, 70, 80 buy-to-lets a month. Absolute experts in this area. They can work out for you whether it's worth releasing money, what that will cost, what the investment will then pay, how they will pay that back. They can build a plan for you that will show you whether it's achievable or not. Why not find out and know for definite? And for most of you, you'll be amazingly surprised what the outcomes are going to be. So I've got a freebie for you. We normally charge £295 to spend an hour and have a review with one of our team. And the brokers charge that amount or more normally. What I am offering for you is a totally free review. If you look somewhere around here, there will be a link. If you can't find the link, we'll put it on the screen as well. rebrand.ly/portfolio-review. rebrand.ly/portfolio-review. You don't need to have a portfolio already. You might just have your residential property with some equity in it. Get a review. Find out what money you can release. Find out what the plan would look like. Then you'll have the facts. Then you might go, thank you for those facts. Don't like the sound of Aaron. Not sure he's the right fit for me. And you might walk away. But you've got the facts. Or what many of you will do, you'll go, that's amazing. Those facts are amazing. Flip Aaron knows his stuff. He's been doing this for 2 decades now. This is amazing. This company are buying 40 a month. We're in. And we do it all for you. But it starts by doing a review. Just do a review. Now, this is the 3rd video in the series, remember. Review, rebrand.ly/portfolio-review on the screen, and somewhere around here, there'll be a link. In the final video of this series, I'm going to give you my luxury retirement oracle and show you how to use it to see exactly how you can retire personally within 10 years, guaranteed. So this oracle allows you to input your own information, your own numbers, your own situation, and see exactly what it will take to reach your passive income goals. Because some of you are going, I don't even need 70,000 a year, Aaron. 40,000 a year for me would be amazing. Some of you are going, 20,000 a year would pay my mortgage for the rest of my life and pay my bills for the rest of my life. That would be amazing. How soon can I have that? Because then I can quit my job, or one of the two of us can quit our job. Yeah. So I'm promising you this 70,000 a year in 10 years. Some of you could get there in 3-4 years, and one of you is quitting your job, or both of you are. We've all got a different bespoke situation, haven't we? So in the fourth video in this series, I'm going to share with you my luxury retirement oracle, and I'm going to show you how to use it so you can build your own bespoke plan, put your own numbers in. And as you're going to discover, if you let my team at the Insight Group manage your portfolio for the next 15 years, if you don't just want to do 10, we do 15 years, you've got 15 years, you'll be on a 6-figure income for the rest of your life. By the way, that's the equivalent of having a £3 million pension pot when you retire. You're never going to build a £3 million pension pot in the next 15 years, and you can build a property portfolio that gives you the same income without doing any of the work. And I know that sounds unbelievable, which is why I've recorded this 4-part video series. It's just numbers, they're basic math of property. And you see, like almost everything in life that seems unbelievable, when you follow a proven system, it's straightforward to achieve. It's not necessarily easy, but it's straightforward to achieve. The same thing is true for buying world-class properties that mate like rabbits and triple the size of your portfolio in 10 years without an extra penny from your own pocket. There's a straightforward process to do it, simple and straightforward process that you've seen today. I'm going to send you that final video in the next couple of days. In the meantime, thank you for watching this video today, and I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of days' time. Remember, you can get that free review with the team. They'll just review with you and help you work out your situation. They'll treat you like family and just review and say, if we were you, this is what we'll do. And then you'll know whether you can do this or not, whether you've got money to do it or not. And on the back of knowing whether you can do it or not, you'll also then have a plan that you can then follow to get financially free. Now, by the way, this starts with a minimum 40,000 investment. So we need to find 40,000 either in cash and savings or in equity in your own home or equity. So there's no point, if you don't have any property and any equity and you've only got £2,000, there's no point booking one of those appointments. You need to have £40,000 we can get at. But if you think you might have 40,000 in savings and or in equity in your own residential property or equity in your buy-to-lets, then you definitely want to do one of those reviews. And if you've got 120,000, 200,000, 400,000, a million, it's going to blow your brains. It's going to absolutely blow your brains. So I look forward to seeing you in another couple of days' time and sharing that property oracle with you. Book an appointment with the team. And in the meantime, look after yourself, look after those you love, invest with knowledge, invest with confidence, create financial freedom. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.